What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming at you another community shoutcast for the OUSA Dota League Season 2. We're loading into game number 1 of Horsemen the Ruckus up against Team Recursion. So it's game 1 of a best of 3 series in the Group 2 playoffs. Usually I operate with a 2-minute delay, but since the game is already underway, I'm actually viewing it as a spectator, so there's an immediate 2-minute delay built into the game. And so there's zero stream delay for this one. So Faceless Void, first pickup coming from Horsemen the Ruckus, going to be played by UGTFO over on the offlane. They decided to ban out the Lycanthrope as well as the Brewmaster. So the Lycanthrope, because he's a death ball push hero that punishes any mistake you make. And the Pandarian Brewmaster, because he provides such a huge amount of teamfight control, he's able to punish the sloppier execution from Horsemen the Ruckus compared to some of the other top tier teams, since you can control the fight, you're cycling up the Faceless Void and create a lot of presence. By being able to make the fight 3v5, so you bolt toss one, you cycling up the other, and lets your team focus fire targets down very effectively. So Invoker and the Silencer being banned out by Recursion, and so they've gone for the first pick of the Tidehunter as well as the Skywrath Mage. There's very standard pickups coming out from them. Tidehunter, very powerful offlane hero, similar to the Void, but the advantage of the Void is Tidehunter, you want to be able to win your lane. Void, you don't have to win your lane. As long as you break even and you can find enough farm to get your ultimate, you can be able to create space. Tidehunter, you have to get a Blink Dagger, because Void has a Blink Dagger built in with the Time Walk. And Skywrath Mage works a lot better with the Void than against the Void. And if Void gets sloppy and catches one of his teammates, the Skywrath Mage can Mystic Flare them, but you can't Mystic Flare the Void because he's got 1,000 movement speed. And Tidehunter's Ravage just barely has enough time for Skywrath Mage to be able to get a full duration Mystic Flare off. But so far, a lot of the Skywrath Mage plays that we've seen in the ODL have been fairly sloppy. You want to be effective with your Mystic Flare. And it's the sole reason why you pick up the hero when the mid game kicks in, so you can immediately blow up targets. It gives you the same amount of burst potential as Alina, but you're a lot more reliable, yet you just completely outclass their hero. Shadow Shaman being picked up as the first support hero for Horsemen the Ruckus, so it works incredibly well within the Chronosphere, so the Mass Serpent Wards can continue to deal DPS. As well as the fact that Shadow Shaman, his biggest issue is if he doesn't have a Blink Dagger, the Faceless Void gives him time and space to be able to run forward. And so a third ban coming out from Horsemen the Ruckus in the second banning stage will be interesting to see what heroes they decide to ban out. With the Skywrath Mage being picked up as their first support hero, they actually decided to ban the Doombringer, and it wasn't banned out at all by Recursion. They chose to go for a Tidehunter instead of Doom. And Death Prophet being banned out just because of the obvious synergy you have with Faceless Void. Since Faceless Void, when you trap him in place with the Chronosphere, even if you trap the Death Prophet, as long as Exorcism, she's able to get that off, she'll still be able to contribute a huge amount of DPS. But the issue that Recursion faces is that with the Shadow Shaman, they want to ban out support heroes that synergize with the Void, but if you waste too many support bans just dealing with the Void, it makes the rest of the draft very difficult. Because you also want to pick up heroes that can counteract the Void in the Chronosphere. So Tidehunter works very well in the sense that if you don't catch Tidehunter in the Chronosphere, he can drop the Ravage and clip you on the edge of it. So it's wasting a lot of your Chronosphere time. But the advantage of the Void is if you catch the Tidehunter in the Chronosphere, you're not going to have to deal with a Ravage. So Enigma being banned out for the obvious synergy that you have. Since Tidehunter blinks forward, catches them out with the Ravage, then Enigma runs up. You don't have to buy a blink on the Enigma, so you could go towards an early mech and then build towards a BKB, and then he catches them in place with the Black Hole. It's a very powerful team fight support duo, as well as the macro advantage that Enigma gives you, since he's the fastest jungling hero in the game. Well, currently in the game, Lycanthrope used to be a jungle faster than the Enigma before he was nerfed, or rather his Wolves reworked. Venomancer being banned out, because Venomancer and Shadow Shaman work very well in support duos, since the Venomancer Gale sets up Shadow Shaman for a shackle. But we usually see teams such as Blink run with the very early boots over on Shadow Shaman to ensure that he could get that shackle, since that's Shadow Shaman's biggest weakness. So mitigating that helps you play towards Shadow Shaman's strengths, which is the huge amount of CC he provides, as well as the massive amount of teamfight utility with the Mass Serpent Wards and the shackle, as well as the Hex. Razor being picked up with Recursion. So we could most likely be seeing a Razor mid or a Razor tri-lane. Blink Dota in the series up against Sing 2 did run Razor in the tri-lane as the tri-lane farm in both games. So Razor can be run in the off-lane if it's 1v1, this mid or the safe lane. With Tidehunter being picked up, most likely going to be seeing an off-lane Tide. We have seen a few teams run Tidehunter in the 4-position role, but Tidehunter in the 4-position role doesn't really give you all that much because you need a lot of golden experience for Tidehunter to be effective. And because he's such a powerful off-laner, especially with the 8.1 buff, it was Anchor Smash, so now works on Ancients, it's a 60% debuff. Tidehunter is one of the best offlane heroes in the game. Because if you leave it, if the supports rotate away, he can bully and harass out the enemy carry and actually go for a kill attempt. Since the Anchor Smash, if he clips, so long as he clips them with the Anchor Smash, they can't find CS. And they're copying a lot of damage every time you have the Anchor Smash off cooldown. And because he's so tanky, due to his innate strength gain, as well as his Kraken Shell, it's very difficult to bring him down. They go for a Warlock, so we could be seeing Warlock either as a core lock, which is the way that I like to see him run personally, because like a Tidehunter, you can run him as a 4, but you need golden experience up on him. If you give Warlock a lot of golden experience, he could single-handedly win you games. MVP Phoenix were able to use this to eliminate VP in the TI4 wildcard off the back of March's Warlock, so he was able to get the Aghanim Scepter and a Refresher. And so you're dealing with 4 Warlock Fire Golems. They're able to win you fights decisively because it's a massive amount of teamfight impact. But the issue with the Warlock over in the 4 position role, if you're running him as a support, is he can't rotate. You can't go for smoke gangs with the Warlock. He doesn't provide you enough damage or enough snare unless he chooses to invest significantly into upheaval. But even then, there are safer and much more reliable support pickups. Whereas if you run Warlock as a core lock, if you have him as the mid or the offlaner, and he's able to farm his farm there, you're at least able to because Warlock is very tanky and because he actually has substantially high base damage, and through Shadow Word, you can actually just sit there and just right-click people down. Centaur Warrunner being picked up, so we could be seeing a Void offlane with a Centaur Warrunner tri-lane. Horsemen and Ruckus are the only team in the ODL, one that actually like to run Centaur Warrunner in the tri-lane, and it does have a lot of power if you're able to get a good initiation off. But the only issue with Centaur Warrunner in the tri-lane, especially if it's tri-v-tri, is there's so many ways to disrupt the Centaur Warrunner from getting in position for their Hoofstomp. Outworld Destroyer, 5th ban, and the Nature's Prophet 5th ban coming up from Recursion. So it'll be interesting to see what heroes they decide to pick up as their 5th. Since their lanes are fairly questionable at the moment, we could be seeing Skywrath Mage and Warlock being a support combo, but most likely going to be seeing we could be seeing Warlock in the offlane, just because Tidehunter is going to be the offlane, so we could be seeing Warlock mid, in which case they have to pick up another support hero. So the 5th pick determines this, and we're seeing a Slark, which is a bit questionable because Bloodseeker is still in the pool. Ancient Apparition's picked up on the enemy team. You never pick a Slark against an Ancient Apparition. If you get touched by the Ice Blast, you are completely useless for the duration of the fight. The Slark is completely independent on the Shadow Dance regen, especially since his Dark Pack, which is a substantial amount of his damage, self-damages him for half the amount. So when so Slark's more than happy to use Dark Pack when he's got Shadow Dance available because he can use the Shadow Dance to regen. So Horsemen and Ruckus, if they can decide to completely disregard the Slark pickup, or they can choose to completely counteract on the Bloodseeker. So long as Bloodseeker's alive, he doesn't even have to be any good. So long as he's alive and he's got a few points up in the Thirst, and Slark is below half HP, the Thirst will prevent Slark from being a regen. They go for the Viper. So we're going to be seeing, probably going to be Dumble D. Oh, never mind. King Killer going to be the mid on the Viper. They do like to mix it up from time to time. So Centaur Warrunner at the offlane, we're going to be seeing a 1-position Faceless Void, as Dumble D and King Killer. The two can play either the 1 or the 2 role respectively, so they like to switch it up. But that being said, 5 IP, Mule actually ran Faceless Void over in the mid lane. So Faceless Void, he can run in any lane, so long as he's 1v1, he should be able to win most matchups, just because he's got the best level 1 stats out of any hero in the game. He's got obscenely high base damage, and with a few points in the time lock, if you get a lucky time lock in, you can usually turn that into a kill, or at least deal a substantial amount of harassment. So I'm going to introduce the players from both teams. Over on Horsemen or the Ruckus, actually probably should switch this to free camera. There we go. So over on Recursion, we've got Arab King going to be over on the Slark, and starting with Poor Man's Shield. No Tango has been pulled to him. Defense of the Asshole is going to be the 5-position Skywrath Mage from the look of it. AIT looks like he's going to be playing a support Warlock, so 4-position Warlock. Namakian going to be that 3-position Tidehunter in their offlane. Choosing to start with the Stealth Shield at 1. You usually want to see boots up on him earlier as opposed to the Stealth Shield because the Kraken Shard makes it completely irrelevant. And Fergie going to be the 1-position Razor farming up in the tri-lane, with Arab King probably going to be mid. So we're going to be seeing a Warlock going to be running that support position. Immediate 5-man smoke rotation, but the last time Recursion did this, it ended in an absolute massacre for them, with 3 kills going in favor of 5 IP, but they're choosing to stick to their guns. Over on the boys and Horsemen and Ruckus, Dumble D going to be the 1-position Faceless Void. Actually, they're leaving alone the offlane. King Killer going to be the 2-position Viper in the mid lane, so captain and drafter for the team. Gats, 4-position Ancient Apparition with Yuji TFO going to be the 3-position. Looks like they're trying to run an aggressive tri-lane, with Method Man going to be the 5-position. Actually, with the Ancient Apparition, Shadow Shaman becomes the 4-position role in this particular case. Starting up with Sentries. Smoke rotation completely fruitless. They weren't even able to drop any wards off as well. They probably want to drop wards off now to at least ensure that they could get a good block off in the Machian. This Tidehunter alone against the Faceless Void actually does a lot better than other offlaners. Since Faceless Void's a melee hero, he's going to be eating the Anchor Smash debuff, but since Faceless Void hits so damn hard, and since he's got here, a lot of his hero killing power comes from the time lock, it's a 60-40 matchup. It does favor the Tidehunter slightly, but it's not as bad for the Faceless Void as it is. If it was Tidehunter against the Centaur Warrunner, Centaur Warrunner would be completely destroyed. And since Dumbledy is one of the better 1v1 players in Dunedin, he should be able to have a fairly easy time. Looks like we could be seeing a dual lane, never mind. Fergie up against King Killer over on the Viper. And so Viper against Razor, this is a 50-50 matchup where it's entirely dependent on how well both players perform. Since on paper, the Viper is the best 1v1 here in the game, and so is the Razor. But the issue of it is Razor's entirely dependent on static link. And we see already, he hasn't skilled static link, he's not even going towards King Killer, because he knows that every time he does, he's going to right-click him down. So if you could waste the static link, then Viper immediately has the advantage. And Fergie, he's going to be very careful, because we've got support rotation coming in, not even smoked up. So we've got Gat, as well as a Method Man, waiting in the wings. But they said, start to rotate tops, they're going to leave UGTFO alone, and UGTFO actually might be feeding first, but the Arcane Ball will be enough. And he takes it forward, one more right click coming in. So unfortunately, UGTFO is usually an outstanding offlane player. Very rare to see him give away first blood, especially this early on. And Namakian, fleeing for his life, he's going to run the long way around, just to make sure he doesn't get caught by support rotation, as they use the supports for rotating around. The Horsemen and Ruckus, they love to run, do level 1 ganks, and especially in the mid lane. King Killer's going to be very careful, he's actually taking 2 ticks now. 3 ticks, but he's able to turn around, and with that point up in the corrosive skin, snaring Fergie. Fergie now has to be very careful. You did get the link off, but now what? You're at half HP, you're below half HP, you're forced to burn through your regen. And Viper, once he gets a point up in the Nether Toxin, can really start to punish this. There's the reason why, on paper, Razor should beat the Viper, but in practice, it's more 50-50. Just because Viper is such a powerful hero, especially when played by a hero that understands the capacities of the Viper. So King Killer, most likely going to be maxing out the corrosive skins. The Tried and Tester build, just because it's usually superior to the other build, where you go for a split build for 2-2. So you want to get 2 points up in the Nether Toxin, and maybe 2 points up in the Poison attack. And then you want to max out the corrosive skin. While I say that, over in the top lane, the Markian caught up the shackle by Method Man. Dumbledy smacking around, praying to RNG so he can get a time lock. Cold Feet popped as well. And the Markian doesn't have a point in the Kraken Shell. Dumbledy chooses to commit for this. They should be able to clean him up. Anchor Smash flies out. And Dumbledy's actually caught in the creep wave. Method Man tanking tower shots to make sure Dumbledy doesn't die. So good recognition coming up from him. And immediately we've got support. We've got the Markian TPing back into the top lane with 1 point up the Anchor Smash and nothing else. Dumbledy can actually do a bit more damage to him if he chooses to do so. It's got 2 points up in the Time Walk to be able to ensure that he has superior initiation and the range for that. But UGTFO is a dire offlaner. He's got a much more difficult time, even though he's got the level advantage. But Tidehunter, just off the back of the fact that creep equilibrium was disrupted and pushed towards the tower, picked up level 3, so UGTFO has a bit of a difficult time. He should have enough gold to be able to pick up his boots now, or just be able to passively wait. Castella's magic is GG Browns if he really wants to. But King Killer in the mid lane, actually getting out CS'd by Fergie, so very rare to see this happen, especially considering the fact that he's got points up. He's got 2 points in the Nether Toxin. This shouldn't be happening. The Markian once again gets completely styled upon by Dumbledy. So King Killer, he's had to recover control of the lane, especially with 2 points up in the Nether Toxin. So against a Razor for the Viper, you don't want to go for the max corrosive skin build because he'll be able to out DPS you through the corrosive skin with the static link. So you instead want to go for 2 points in the Nether Toxin and then 2 points in the poison attack. So when he goes for a link, you snare him so you can run away and break the link. Now once the link breaks, you play hyper aggressive because every time Fergie wastes a static link, it's very difficult for him to be able to contest CS, and it's very easy for the Viper to be able to turn it around for a kill. And so fairly even as King Killer has recovered very nicely now. He's got a lot more CS and a lot more denies, and denies are proving to be a much more critical factor, especially once he gets level 6. If he gets level 6 before Viper, he's already got a half level advantage. He should be able to go for a very easy kill. So King Killer starting to win the lane a lot better now. And Aaron has to be very careful. UGTFO almost went for a kill attempt there. Centaur Warrunner also works well against the Slark, especially when you have an Ancient Apparition. Run the top lane, the Markian once again caught in a position. Dumbledy's going to smack him down, and actually gets a CS for that. And he's got enough for a Midas. So we're going to see a 4.5 minute hand of Midas over on Dumbledy. Usually 6 minutes is considered a fast Midas. 4.5 minutes. That actually might be a record for the ODL2 as well as the ODL1. Even in competitive games, it's very rare to see a hand of Midas that early on. Fergie copying a lot of damage from King Killer. So Viper knows that since he has to get close to get that link off, or if you can man fight him and DPS him down before the link becomes relevant, then you're able to win the lane that way. And so UGTFO, with the creep wave pushing up, he should be able to hit level 5, so level 3 double edge available for him, as well as the Tranquil Boots. So it's going to make it very difficult to dislodge UGTFO out of the lane. We've actually got supports immediately rotating over, so Defense of the Assholes. He's heading to the top lane to help clean up Namakian's mess, since he's already playing very far behind. 0 for 3 on the Radiant offlane as a Tidehunter, probably the best offlane hero in the current metagame, aside from the Void. Very questionable decision making coming out from him. Hand of Midas now online, so it took about 40 seconds for it to actually be couriered over to him. But all in all, Dumbledee's off to a fantastic start, able to minus up some creeps. Once he gets a level 6, he can actually go for a double kill. And Fergie taking a lot of damage. King Killer can actually choose to dive this with the Viper Strike being the initial snare, and he gets that last hit. And so the King Killer, he ain't afraid of no ghosts. This is what he is known for. Diving, playing very aggressively, diving towers, even if it results in his death occasionally. So most likely going to be the mech carrier for his team, since it provides a lot more EHP on the Viper than the Vanguard. Since Vanguard, it's a pretty terrible item in general, unless you get it by 8 minutes on some heroes. So for instance, an Axe, if you get an 8-minute Vanguard on an Axe, then you can do a lot of work with that. But on a hero like a Viper, you get more EHP by building a mech, so you should always, it's like a flowchart. If you can build a Vanguard, just consider why the hell can't I build a mech? Actually, Gas takes a Falls and Markian, is able to clean them up. Defense of the Assholes can be smacked down by Dumbledee. Never mind, with the boots up on him, he actually should be able to outmaneuver him. So Dumbledee, he's actually gets a first hit dash. And Ether Shock from Method Man finishing him off. Fatal Bonds being used on the two of them. Markian now turns into a chicken. Stampede being used defensively to be ensure the retreat for those two heroes. So Recursion able to at least get a kill over on Gats. And King Killer bottles up a regen rune, choosing to max out the Nether Toxin, so you usually only see 2 points in the Nether Toxin to ensure that you get the plus 80 damage. Arrow King fleeing for his life, and GCTFO is also using it aggressively. And this one position Slark, I dislike the one position Slark because he's a snowball hero, so if you could disrupt him, or if he's not able to achieve too much in the early game, he falls apart. But defense of the Ashles, called up a King Killer, used the Viper Strike. He doesn't care if you catch him out the Ancient Seal. He says, thanks for the damage, now you're caught up in the snare, eat Corrosive Skin, you bitch. And he should be able to right click him now, one more right click. Flying up from him, they ensures the kill. UCFO comes in to leech some EXP. Level 4 double edge now available, and in the top lane, while it's happening, the Markian being bodyguarded up by AIT, so this Warlock pickup hasn't really accomplished anything so far. I guess it did get the kill with the Shadow Word dot over on UGTFO at level 1. But Dumbledee level 6 up, he actually go for a kill attempt over on AIT, since he knows that the Markian doesn't have it. He actually has 3 points in the Kraken Shell. You only need 2 is the critical number for the Kraken Shell. You want to max out the Anchor Smash as soon as possible. You go for 2 points, so it gives you a free Kraken Shell. And so it gives you a free Poor Man Shield, especially starting with a Stout Shield. Highly questionable decision making. You only start with a Stout Shield on the Tidehunter if you want to go for an early point in Gush and max out the Anchor Smash ASAP, so that means you can stick with 1 point in the Kraken Shell as opposed to 2. So starting with a Stout Shield and then maxing out the Kraken Shell, you've just wasted 250 gold. And it means that no one cares if you're alive or if you're dead or if you're in their face. You're not going to do enough damage to be much of a threat. They can ignore you, kill everybody else, then turn around and clean you up. Since Tidehunter, he has to make a lot of space for his team, especially considering how badly the Slark is farming over in the bot lane. And the mid lane, Fergie had the initial advantage against King Killer, but King Killer able to rest away from him. So all 5 players from Recursion massing over in the top lane, but Chronosphere is up. Unfortunately, they don't have Mass Serpent Walls to work with that, but the fact is the Chronosphere looks like King Killer's actually caught up by Arrow King. Arrow King immediately uses his Shadow Dance, and King Killer just pops his haste for him. Says, see you later, sucker. Gats, Method Man actually turns around, Maki instantly cancels the Shackle. Gats actually caught up the Science Close way too far forward. I don't know why he was moving that far forward. Stampede used defensively. Great 5-man Chronosphere, the first 5-man Chronosphere, the ODL2. This could be a complete wipe for Team Recursion. Dumbledee now backs away. Shadow, keeping the Markian alive. Markian doesn't have a Ravage. He doesn't have enough points in the X Smash to be effective. Gas looks like he fed. And King Killer should be the clean up AIT in the background. He turns around, throws out the Shadow Word, but Shadow Word isn't going to do you anything. That actually ensures you die, because the dot damage from Corrosive Skin as well as the snare locks you in place. So while it's happening, UGTFO, he wasn't even present in that fight. He's continuing to find his farm, halfway towards his Blink Dagger. Once he gets his Blink Dagger, he can immediately blow up any hero he spots out on the enemy team. And now choosing to invest in the point over in the return. You usually see Centaur Warrunners max out the Hoof Stomp before you go for a point in the return. But a value point in the return with 2 points of the Hoof Stomp is also fairly effective. Gats, not too sure why he played so far forward there, especially into Skywrath Mage, since once he's silenced, he can't do anything. Once again, choosing to max out the Cold Feet build, something that Gats seems to like doing opposed to the other Ancient Apparition build. You want to max out the Chilling Touch. The advantage of it is it gives you a lot more solo pick-off power, especially with the Shadow Shaman Shackle to set it up. But the disadvantage is if you don't position yourself properly, you die very quickly. The Markian now has his Ravage, but with only 1 point up in the Anchor Smash, he still isn't really doing enough damage to warrant any focus fight. He actually misses CS, even though he Anchor Smashed for that. Mech now up on the Viper, so 10 minutes in, and this is when Viper becomes very scary. Once he has a mech, you can't ignore him. If you leave him alone, not only will he kill everybody else, he will heal them up, With the maxed out Nether Toxin, he doesn't even have to go for a defensive build. AIT actually gets called out. 2-man Hoofstorm as well, to 2-man double it. Then didn't have enough mana for the Hoofstorms. He used to Stampede. One more Reckless from King Killer. Uses it over Arab King as well. Arab King doesn't have a Shadow Dance. He feeds another kill. King Killer cleaning up. And cleaning up on the bottom lane for him. And with the mech up as well as Method Man now rotating over to join in a bit of the action, they should be able to take the Tail 1 tower. He'll be able to pick up his Mass Serpent Wards off the back of the Creep Wave. And they can commit to Mass Serpent Wards to take the Tail 1 to bottom lane, deprive them of their safe lane farm. And Gats, he's now got his Ancient Apparition Ice Blast online. Looks like he's the one building towards the Earner Shadows. So it gives him a fair amount of survivability. And Double D, farming up the Storm. He's got Mask and Max. He actually go for a solo kill over in the Marquee. And he actually looks like he's shooting to do so. Rotates in, Time Walk into the Chronosphere. No. Decided to be cool. Eats the Anchor Smash. Should have really committed for the kill there. If he could kill the Namakian, or get him to waste the Chronosphere. King Killer runs very far forward. One right click on defense of the assholes almost completely kills him. Takes out half of his life, especially the Ice Blast latching. One more right click will be enough. King Killer should stand his ground right now. He knows he's gonna die. He can at least make them expend as many resources as possible. Usually TFO comes staggering. King Killer's still alive. Double Edge Hoofstorm cleans him out. Fergie gets a great set of late time. Never mind, only 2 seconds. Iron Storm very early on. UGTFO flees for his life. Mass Serpent Wards can be dropping. Method Man runs forward and feeds. He should have continued to flee since UGTFO was fine. Blink Dagger now up on Centaur Warrunner, so he should be able to blink himself out. Dumbledy still waiting in the wings. Goes in for the Namakian and unfortunately whiffs. When Namakian doesn't have enough mana to use his Ravage and still continue to invest points over in the Kraken Shell. Your Anchor Smash is the reason why you're picked up now. It's the most powerful ability you have. You want to max it as soon as possible. Kraken Shells just to ensure that you can keep getting Anchor Smashes off. Especially when you have Arcane Boots this early on. No one cares if you're alive, if you're not doing any damage, or if you're not providing utility to your team. Didn't even have enough mana to use his Ravage for that engagement, so Namakian that tied into 0 impact tide 12 minutes into the game, where Dumbledy, rising up an absolute storm, can finish his treads. He's still got Chronosphere online, so they could choose to defend their tail 1, especially with Stampede. Ancient Apparition Ice Blast flies out. Catches out on 3, so great Ice Blast. Stampede being used by UGTFO. Goes over on the Namakian. Could be a mistake though. He goes Ravage online. Throws out the Ravage. Catches out 3. Good Ravage coming up for him. Dumbledy taking a lot of damage. Make being used to keep himself alive. Panic Chrono, unfortunately. He's choosing to focus the wrong target. Arab King caught up with the double damage. Wants to Shadow Down. Should be able to kill off UGTFO. He's caught up with the signs. Arcane Ball cleans him up and Shadow Shout in the top lane. Typical Jamie contribution to a fight where your team is losing. You at least take a tower. King Killer. He's been static linked up, but he doesn't give a fuck. He's got Nether Tonks, he's got Poison Attack. Gas now joins the party very late, as per usual. With the Tail 1 being taken to the top lane, as well as it being a trade. A very expensive trade, but the fact that they could defend that Tail 1 tower and take a Tail 1 of their own means that Horsemen and Ruckus, they just barely come out ahead. They did waste a lot of resources in order to do so. But some questionable decision making coming up from Dumbledy. I guess he knew that since Arab King was caught up in the Shadow Dance, that was the best target that he could have gone for. That Panic Chrono, catching out King Killer. If King Killer wasn't called out, that would have been a complete. That would have been 2 more kills they could have gone for. So they could bring down the Titan, then turn around and kill off Arab King, or at least cripple him. So he can't run around unmolested in these engagements. But UGTFO with that Blink Dagger, every time the Ice Blast lands, you have to be very careful, because UGTFO can jump you, Hoof Stomp you, and then Double Edge you in the face. And this Warlock, he's now only just picked up his Chaotic Offering, eats the Hoof Stomp to the face, Double Edge, few more right clicks, gushes up on him, and the Ether Shot from Method Man cleans him up. Method Man gets the kill. UGTFO dodges to pounce. Showdown's being blown by King Killer, one to get in range for the mech, turns around over on the mech, and the mech doesn't have Ravage, so he's completely useless. He's worse than the melee creep at this point. He's able to kill off Arab King. Arab King actually gets cleaned up by Gats. Gats gets a double kill off the back of his ultimate, so good play coming up from him. Felgi comes a bit late to the party. He's also building towards mech, but because he doesn't have it, there's only so much he could do. And King Killer able to use the mech to keep himself back up to full HP. Method Man, he's actually rushing towards a Blink Dagger. He probably wants to pick up Arcane Boots before you go for Blink. Just because otherwise you'll have enough mana to use all of your abilities once. And then you're completely useless. But that being said, early Blink Dagger up on the Shadow Shaman is absolutely devastating, since you can blink, catch another hero with a Shackle, and then set up for the rest of your team, especially when you've got Arcane Boots up on Gats. Probably wants to be building towards the Agnum Scepter Fergie. King Killer scouting him out. There's a very aggressive ward being placed by the Horsemen of the Ruckus, despite any TP rotations. AIT, he does have his Chaotic Offering, so they do have that in their favor. All ultimates are online, apart from the Ravage. Stampede being used to initiate over Arab King. Chaotic Offerings being dropped. A good Chaotic Offering, catching out 3. The Chaotic Warlock is actually going to kill off Method Man. The Fatal Bond's doing a lot of work as well. Gets fleeing for his life. Fergie should be able to go for a kill attempt. Dumbledy turns back around. UGTFO. Arab King whiffs a pounce once again and feeds. King Killer's able to clean him up. The Mass Serpent was doing so much work, even off the back of that, considering the fact that Method Man actually disconnected during that fight. He got his wards off, and that's all you really need to do. So it looks like some internet issues coming on for Horsemen and Ruckus. I'm having a few lag issues on my end as well. Faceless Void, probably going to be picking up a Maelstrom as the next big item. He could be going towards a BKB if he wants to play it super safe. But at this point, you want to ensure that you can kill whatever target you catch on the Chronosphere. This King Killer, even though he chose not to max out the corrosive skin, able to make the aggressive build work since he hasn't been punished, and with that early mech pickup, it gives him the EHP to get from the corrosive skin anyway. Mech now online for the Razor, so 16 hits in the game. With the pause coming out now, then wait for Method Man to reconnect. 10,000 gold lead in favor of Horseman and Ruckus, and 11,000 EXP lead. Things are looking very grim for the boys over in Recursion. As Dumbledore continue to rise up a storm, he hasn't died once this entire game. In terms of net worth, we see the 3 cores from Horseman and Ruckus significantly far ahead from the cores over in Recursion. Dumbledore has more than twice the net worth of the Razor, and UGTFO in the 3 position, even though he fed first blood and was fairly heavily pressured, still able to get a lot more CS just because he's able to recover off these kills. Building towards a Blade Mail, so a good pickup, especially considering the fact that Arab King, he's going to be dealing a lot of unintended AoE. And so Blade Mail pickups work very well against teams that have uncontrolled AoE. So for instance, against the Sand King, every time he epicenters, you pop the Blade Mail, he eats a lot of damage in return. Shadow Shaman also works well for this because the Mass Serpent wards are uncontrolled. Well, if you're not microing them effectively, since they also have a small amount of splash damage. Venomancer is another great hero. Since AoE, he can't control who he's dealing damage to, since you ideally want to get your Nova off on everybody. But the Warlock Chaotic offering at least gave them retaliatory kills. So the Warlock, if he was running the core position, especially since the Markin hasn't accomplished anything at all, I'm going to Titan apart from that one Ravage in the bottom lane. Having a core lock would be able to do a lot more work. He's choosing to max out Gush. So he didn't get the memo where everyone realized Gush is a 1-point wonder. You want to max out your other abilities first. Since the disadvantage of him maxing out the Kraken Shard and then choosing to max out Gush opposing Anchor Smash is he can't find his recovery farm by the Ancients. It's the reason why Titan is currently the most powerful offlane hero in the game, is if you shut him down, you can still find recovery farm by stacking the Ancients and clearing him out. No other hero in the game has that ability to recover that well off the Ancients. The only one that comes close, I guess, would be the Beastmaster, but while I say that, Fergie calling out position on the Stampede and providing momentum for a Method Man to again place the Shackle, and King Killer cleans him up. Looks like Shadow Shaman decides to go for the Arcane Boots. See, he doesn't necessarily need the Blink Tag with the Stampede from UGTFO to provide that immediate jumping capability. Markian still nowhere near his Blink Dagger, throws out the Gush, but UGTFO doesn't give a fuck. He's got Blink Dagger, he's got the Hoof Stomp to ensure that he can buy enough time for the Blink Dagger to come off cooldown if he takes any form of damage. And Method Man and Gat's playing very far forward because they know King Killer's with them to back him up. They grouped up like that. So if the Blink Dagger was online the Markian, and if he had that maxed out Anchor Smash, he could be creating a lot of space for his team. Mass Overmord's being used to clear out the tier 2. And there's no response coming out from Recursion. They're not looking to trade or fight, especially since UGTFO's in the high ground. He wants to get a pick off on Arab King. The Slark pickup is being completely ineffective. So you want to be ahead, and Dumbledore gets a solo kill the bot lane. Arab King, actually UGTFO is able to get he gets stuns before he's able to get off. Great 4-man Ravage. Mass Serpent was not being microed at all, so they're just hitting creeps in the background. Arab King gets cleaned up. UGTFO is more than happy to die in exchange for that death. King Killer might be getting another kill over on Fergie. Method Man throws out the Ether Shock, but unfortunately it whiffed over on Fergie to see what they didn't have vision of him. And King Killer, he's got enough for the Aghanim Scepter, turns around for one more right click on Fergie. If he got another one, it would have been a kill. And that was a 4v5 engagement with Dumbledore, not even 4v4 engagement since Dumbledore wasn't even there. Chose to go for Chrysalis. So he doesn't want to stack attack speed since he knows that there could be the potential for the enemy team to build towards BKB. So you usually want to go towards the Maelstrom because you have all your damage from your time lock. But at the same time, going towards the Chrysalis, also having a very early data list on the Faceless Void also works very well, because you get the attack speed from the Mask of Madness. That's usually due to a matter of player preference, since he knows that because the enemy team as well, they have a lot less armor. The only hero that has substantial armor is the Razor. That's just because of his mech. Method Man, where's the mech coming out? Mech best barely keeps him alive. Kelly offering to use just to kill the 5 position. Markian catching up with UGTFO. Blade Mail being dropped very late. UGTFO unfortunately takes the fall as well. King Killer, he's got to be very careful. Static Link providing vision. Starts to TP back home, says no stuns available, and he just says, see ya, suckers. And while it's happening, Dumbledore is soloing up Roshan. So Method Man called in a position, forcing UGTFO to go and try and back him up, and Dumbledore, he has to get the Roshan last year, picks it up right before, and the Markin gets in place. The Markin doesn't have Ravage, and he even gets smacked down. He's a glorified melee creep, and Dumbledore should be able to time walk himself out of there. As Recursion, they immediately back away. They don't want to mess with him. especially getting around. He turns around with the Chronosphere, catches out AOT as well as Fergie. AOT should be taken for the Chrysalis Bash as well to Time Lock, able to clean him up. Fergie backs away. He's got the static link, so Dumbledy doesn't want to commit to this. Dumbledy 7 for 0 for 4. He's got a Daedalus now flying out towards him. He is obscenely stacked. If you could get a 20-minute Daedalus, then by all means rush it. Mjolnir is the most provides a lot more DPS than the Daedalus or the MKB if the enemy hero has armor over 10. But since there's only one hero with armor over 10, going for a Daedalus gives you a lot more kill potential within the Chronosphere. Since you have all the attack speed you need from the Mask of Madness, so good recognition coming out from Dumbledy. But the advantage of the Mjolnir is it gives you a lot of AoE presence as well. And can just catch a cheeky Viper Strike to the face. Dark Pact unfortunately doesn't purge it off. And so it's another reason why the Viper is a great pickup in this game. Still hasn't chosen to upgrade his boots. It's a good recognition coming out from King Killer. With Viper, you don't really need upgraded boots. I mean, it's nice having the extra stats from Treads, and it's nice having the phase movement. I mean, Treads is usually superior over on Viper. But if it's 950 gold, you could be sending towards your Aghanim Scepter. So having an early Aghanim Scepter is by far superior, since you can just rock around with naked boots. You have all the EHP in the world, from the corrosive skin as well as the mechanism. Usually TFO, casually double edging and creep wave. He's got a blade mail up, so he's using it to try to bait out the Mystic Flare, since if he can return the Mystic Flare defense of the assholes, we're going to almost kill him off the back of that. Good D-Ward coming out from Virgie, as it spotted out the aggressive Tier 2 Observer Warp in place. Dumbledy clearing out their Ancients. Still no Blink Tag on Titan, who chose to pick up a Ring of Basilius. This Titan can like zero impact Titan to this game, since the only time he's able to give a good Ravage is when Horsemen and Ruckus let him, when they group up as 5 and walk into him. When your Titan is forced to only act as a counter initiator, you lose a lot of the hero's potential. Since Titan, the reason why it's so powerful, aside from the fact that he's the best offlane hero in the game with the current meta, in terms of sustainability as well as reliability, is the fact that you can initiate and counter initiate just as well. But when you're forced to only counter initiate, when you're relying on AIT to initiate with the Chaotic Offering, things get very messy. Since Chaotic Offering only provides you 1 second to stun, even if it does go through BKB, it's very easy to land. The 1 second stun means that Method Man, if you're not able to kill him in that second, if you're not able to get the Ravage off in time, if he's able to get his Mass Serpent Wards, he doesn't really care if he dies, he's done his job. The Mass Serpent Wards will do enough work. Gat's caught out position, unfortunately farming the enemy jungle, catches out Ice Blast over a 1, Ravage catches out, Method Man's cleaned up with the Mystic Flare as well as the Chaotic Offering. Their entire team is caught up in the Chronosphere. Fantastic Chronosphere coming out as King Killer cleans out Eric King in the backline. UGTFO finish off the defense of the assholes. Fergie gonna get smacked around, might be to get a retaliatory kill with the dot damage coming out, and the Namekian, they completely ignore them because why would you have to focus on this? No reason. Once he uses Ravage, it's completely useless, and they finally clean him up. This is the reason why you max out your Anchor Smash. And so you can at least provide a lot more damage if they ignore you, at least turn it into a turnaround. Arab King buys back King Killer, he's got the Viper Strike available, can actually choose to dive and go for a kill. The King Killer, he's learned his mistakes from the last ODL. We're diving actually, never mind. Forget that I said that. Throws out the Viper Strike. Arab King forced to use Showdown defensively. He misses a pounce once again on the target 100 units away from him. He's going to be taking another death. And King Killer says thanks for the gold. 3.3k up on him. King Killer on the Viper has been dominating this game. Still hasn't chosen to upgrade his boots. Can probably go towards Boots of Travels now. It doesn't really need Treads. And without the Ravage as well as the Chaotic Offering, they can actually group up as 5 and try to deal a lot of damage to the Tier 3. But they're playing it safe. They know that the game's in their hands. The only way they could lose the game is if they decide to throw. And of course, Horsemen and Ruckus are known for throwing 25,000 gold lead in their hands. This is the highest gold lead in favor of any team in the ODL2. And about 25,000 EXP lead. Dumbledy still hasn't died once this game, actually choosing to stack Daedaluses. That's how confident he is in the state of the game. Hasteroon being bottled up by King Killer. Gats almost has his Aghanim Scepter about 1,100 gold away. Centaur Warrunner building towards the pipe. Method Man blink tag up on him, so he's very happy with his items. Probably going to be building towards the Aghanim Scepter later on. He actually wanted to Ether Shock the range creep from there so he could spill over and get damage on them as well. So a bit of a misplay coming up from him. You want to be as efficient as possible with your spells. So slight differences like that can be snowball uncontrollably, especially if you're relying on the CS you get from that. Or if you happen to burn through all your mana by inefficiently Ether Shocking. King Killer, they don't have to use the Mass Open Ones to be able to clean up that Tier 2. And Horsemen and Ruckus, they haven't lost a single Tier 1. Mystic Flare being used on UGTFO, they're able to kill him in the backline. But 3-man Apparition Shatter over him. Fergie caught up with the Shackle. King Killer should be smacking down. Idle Storm doing a lot of damage. Actually, Questionable corner spread from Dumble D. He uses that just to KS and even aimed it so he'd catch out his teammates. They're having fun with the game. Pulse coming out from Warlock. Not really too sure why. It looks like his mouse is dying. Ravage is up for the Namekian. But even if he gets the best Ravage of his life, they don't have enough damage to kill anyone, especially with the Skywrath Mage Mystic Flare down. Got some smackdown coming out from Dumble D. Since they still don't have the Chaotic Offering, at least for another 15 seconds. If they try to fight with the Chaotic Offering and the Ravage, they could at least attempt to go for a pick off in the back line. But Dumble D can always time walk himself forward. A smack around, tied into the force of the blow is Ravage on one. And Kin Killer, 4,000 gold up on him. He could choose to buy another Aghanim Scepter if he really wants to. He could choose to go for a Boots of Travel. And then maybe a Yasha if he wants to transition more to the carry build. Or he's about 1,400 gold off the Heart of Tarask. That just makes him absolutely unkillable. He's already unkillable enough as it is. But the Heart of Tarask is just an extra fuck you to make sure there's no way that you can bring him down. So things are looking grim for the boys over in Recursion. His Defense of the Assholes tries to max out the Ancient Seal build, so he knows he's playing from behind. So good recognition coming out from him. No Talisman up on him. So maybe he was thought he might want him to build towards a Dagon, but Dagon's an item you build when you're ahead, and they sure as hell aren't ahead. Looks like some drivers are installing for the mouse, since it was their first time. But Gats, he almost has enough for his Aghanim Scepter now. He's about 300 gold off. Method Man, he's got enough for the point boosters. That gives you a lot of survivability for the Shadow Shaman, just because you are so incredibly squishy. But with the Blink Dagger, and as well as the Stampede to provide the extra utility, Method Man can play very far back and run forward when the Stampede's off. And it's usually TFO, even though he's been on the receiving end for a lot of deaths. He's almost half his team's deaths. Every single one of his deaths, apart from the First Blood, has been exchanged for a trade. And Centaur Warrior, he's more than happy to throw his life away in exchange for these kills, since he's helped setting up King Killer and Dumble D, who have been absolutely on fire this game. With Dumble D stacking Daedalus, that's how cocky he is with the state of the game. He's got a second Daedalus flying up towards him. Usually in the Void, once you finish your first Daedalus, you might want to pick up something like a Butterfly, since it means you've got 60% evasion, so you've got the 30% PRD from the backtrack, and then you've got the 30% coming in from the Butterfly, well 25 from the backtrack, and then the 30 from the Butterfly. They both stack. Since backtrack technically isn't an evasion, what it does is it heals you by the same amount for the amount of damage that you take. A quick message from King Killer, sorting out the next set of games. Looks like they're having a few issues with their mouse. It seems every time there's a long drawn out pause, either Recursion or Bambi, but since Bambi Rising has disbanded for ODL2, all their players have been scavenged up by other teams. So the pause continues. In terms of strategic map positioning, I'm going to defensive forward place that and ensure they're ancients, but it also provides Roshan vision, but you really want to be warding out your jungle. You want to be placing a ward there, and maybe there to ensure, or there, to ensure that they can't gank you through the jungle. Oh, actually looks like I can't even ping since we're paused up, so I'll have to show you on the mouse cursor. No ward being placed here as well, so important placement. Since Horsemen and Ruckus, they don't actually have a gem, placing a observer ward there can give you a lot of critical intel. It's providing vision of this entire area, so you know when their initiator is going to initiate. So you can see Dumble D before he's able to walk up and jump you. But at the same time, Horsemen and Ruckus, Method Man or Gats, they want to be placing an observer ward there to provide vision for the same reason. Since the reason why it's so difficult to breach high ground is you have no vision and no intelligence of where the enemy is positioned. And when you're playing against a hero like a Faceless Void, the enemy team, of course, they're going to split up. They're going to space themselves to make sure they don't all get caught by the chrono. So it means that it's difficult for them to be the initiator on you. It looks like we're unpausing, never mind. Slark changed, Arrow King changed his mind. Still having some mouse issues. So it says 1 more minute. Going to take a quick item check. AIT. Arcane Mood's up on him, but sweet fuck all elsewise. And because he's only got level 1 Chaotic Offering, 24 minutes into the game, it's too little too late. If he had the level 2 Chaotic Offering, as well as level 2 Ravage, just off the back of those abilities, they could at least try to turn the game around. But the greed with the Slark pickup, especially considering the fact that Arab King's been missing more pounces than I've seen him land. Very questionable decision making coming up from Recursion. Just gonna take a quick drink of water while we're still paused. Looks like we are good to go. So Recursion, they have to try to hold on to their tier 3 and the Rex for as long as possible. It's very difficult for them to try to defend. Especially when the Markian's caught out and AIT gets 3-shotted. Ravage flies out on 3, but that's a defensive Ravage to use. Wasn't able to help set up the rest of your team. Markian now takes the full skin killers, able to clean them up. Method Man turns defensively aged assholes into a chicken, then shackles them up, and King Killer gets another kill in the back line. Not even diving to get these kills. Double D smacking away at the tier 3, and they should be able to, that should be game over for the boys over Recursion. And King Killer actually choosing to invest in a handy dandy Dagon. GG now being called to 24 minutes and 34 seconds in. Horsemen and Ruckus offer some very impressive plays coming out from King Killer as well as Dumble D. And of course UGTFO able to secure a game 1 victory. Just going to take a quick pause and we'll be right back for game number 2.